Hello, it's me, Mike, with HPDS. This video will be a reading and study of Exodus chapter 27. Exodus chapter 27. Before I get started, per usual, I will read the Lord's Prayer, and it reads, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. There it goes. All right, so Exodus, remember the book of Exodus, recap of where we're at. We're in Exodus 27. The book has followed God taking the children of Israel out of Egypt. And, there was the 10 plagues. There's been a whole bunch of things that have happened. But what's really gone on is after the plagues and after they were taken out of Egypt, they were taken into the wilderness of Sinai. And since then, they've reached Mount Sinai itself. And when they reached Mount Sinai a few chapters back, God showed himself there where he, and it's very terrifying. They're up on this mountain. God is talking to Moses, but he's basically, there's a giant, the whole mountain is on fire. There's a giant storm, earthquake, thunder, lightning, all that. It's very terrifying. The people are at the base of the mountain, or they're a little bit off away from the mountain. Moses has been taken up. He was taken up in a cloud to the top of the mountain, just like that, and so forth. But if you remember the last chapter, chapter 26, God started giving them instructions on the tabernacle. So after God gave them the laws a few chapters back starting in chapter 20, God gave them the commandments. Chapter 21, he gave them a few more laws and some judgments and so forth. But since then, after he gave them all of that, he has started giving the people work to do. And so remember, chapter 25 had the instructions for the how to build the mercy seat, the ark of the testimony, the golden candlesticks and everything and so forth. And then in chapter 26, he talked about the tabernacle. So we were talking, he explained how the curtains of the tabernacle should be made. There's some goat's hair curtains. There's some badger hair, I believe, something along, or badger or beaver, I can't even remember which ones, but then there was also boards, and also bars in the veil, and there was a hanging for the door at the end. So there was quite a bit of work, and remember, all of this was overlaid with gold. It was made with wood, overlaid with gold. There was some silver pieces in there. There was some brass pieces in there. There was some really nice curtains. So some linen curtains, and the curtains themselves had to be real intricate themselves, and they had cherubims. And so remember, at this point, these people are all very skilled laborers. God is commanding for some skilled labor to be starting work on his tabernacle. So Exodus 27 is continuing on with this sanctuary that he has made, or that he is making through the people. And so we'll go ahead and get started on this. And let's go ahead and get started on this. Exodus 27, the altar and the courtyard. So here's what we're going to be looking for in this particular chapter. He's going to be talking about, in verses 1 through 8, he's going to be talking about the tabernacle altar. In verses 9 through 17, he's going to give some instructions about the court. And in verses 18 through 19, he's going to give the dimensions of the court. In verses 20 through 21, we're going to hear about some olive oil for the lamp. So that's what we're looking for. It's another short chapter. It's 21 verses long, and it's going on to talk about more work for these children of Israel, and of course this being the altar and the courtyard that they are now working on. So they made, the last one was the actual tabernacle, which was basically like a structure, like a tented structure. And now, like I said, this is the altar and the courtyard. So that's what we're looking for in this particular chapter. And per usual, again, what I'll do is I'll read the chapter straight through, and afterwards, with the help of the Holy Spirit, I'll go through it line by line and kind of explain what exactly is going on. So that's the idea, that's the hope, that's what we're going for in this particular. So chapter Exodus 27, I'll get into reading it right now. And it reads, "And thou shalt make an altar of shittim wood, 5 cubits long, and 5 cubits broad. The altar shall be 4 square, and the height thereof shall be 3 cubits. And thou shalt make the horns of it upon the 4 corners thereof. His horns shall be of the same, and thou shalt overlay it with brass. And thou shalt make his pans to receive his ashes, and his shovels, and his basins, and his flesh hooks, and his fire pans. All the vessels thereof thou shalt make of brass. And thou shalt make it for a grate of network of brass. And upon the net shalt thou make 4 brazen rings in the 4 corners thereof. And thou shalt put it under the compass of the altar beneath, that the net may be even to the midst of the altar. And thou shalt make staves for the altar, staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with brass. And the staves shall be put into the rings, and the staves shall be upon the 2 sides of the altar, to bear it. Hollow with boards shalt thou make it, as it was showed thee in the mount, so shall they make it. And thou shalt make the court of the tabernacle for the south side southward. There shall be hangings for the court of fine twined linen of 100 cubits long for one side. And the 20 pillars thereof and their 20 sockets shall be of brass. The hooks of the pillars and their fillets shall be of silver. And likewise for the north side in length there shall be hanging of 100 cubits long, and his 20 pillars and their 20 sockets of brass. The hooks of the pillars and their fillets of silver. And for the breadth of the court on the west side shall be hangings of 50 cubits, their pillars 10, and their sockets 10. And the breadth of the court on the east side eastward shall be 50 cubits. And the hangings of one side of the gate shall be 15 cubits, their pillars 3, and their sockets 3. And on the other side shall be hanging 15 cubits, their pillars 3, and their sockets 3. And for the gate of the court shall be an hanging of 20 cubits of blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen, wrought with needlework. And their pillars shall be 4, and their sockets 4. At all the pillars round about the court shall be filleted with silver. Their hooks shall be of silver, and their sockets of brass. The length of the court shall be 100 cubits, and the breadth 50 everywhere, and the height 5 cubits of fine twined linen, and their sockets of brass. All the vessels of the tabernacle, in all the service thereof, and all the pins thereof, and all the pins of the court shall be of brass. And thou shalt command the children of Israel that they bring thee pure olive oil, beaten for the light, to cause the lamp to burn always. In the tabernacle of the congregation without the veil, which is before the testimony, Aaron and his sons shall order it from evening to morning before the Lord. It shall be a statute forever unto their generations on the behalf of the children of Israel. So that is Exodus chapter 27 in its entirety. And so yeah, so it's instructions for this altar in the courtyard, and this is another one of those I find it's a complicated uh, a complicated chapter, just like the last chapter was. And in fact, I think these chapters are more complicated than when God was giving the law and when He was giving out the judgments, because those personally, those are easy enough to understand. It's obvious to understand that. But this is complicated. This is some sophisticated work. You need to be at the top, of your game, of your profession, and these were their professions. So the professions, we have some woodworking professions. You had to have lumberjacks, you had to have carpenters, you had to have laborers on top of that too, just general laborers to come across this stuff. You had to have people that could make saws. You had to have people that could make axes. So you had to have smiths, the blacksmiths. So these blacksmiths were working on the gold, they're working on the silver, they're working on brass. So these guys were, also making a lot of stuff here. And then you also had the people making the linen. So the people were making the cloth, they were making the dyes, they were doing the needlework. There's a lot of people here doing a lot of professions, and they were all very, I'm not personally that great at those particular professions. I might know a little bit about a lot of things, but I'm not a needle worker. I'm not a blacksmith. I'm not even a carpenter. So I've done a lot of these kinds of works, sure, but to do it all day, every day as my profession, for years on end, that is not something that I have done. And these people were doing that, and so they were very good at it. And so that's why I feel like these chapters are complicated, because you really have to know their professions to kind of understand the instructions. But I will show pictures. So I do have pictures of this, so to show what exactly is going on. But remember what we're looking for. I guess the first verse is about the tabernacle altar. Then we're going to come across the court, dimensions of the court, and olive oil for the lamp. That's what we're really breaking this particular chapter into. And I'll go back and reread the chapter line by line. And, with the help of the Holy Spirit, God will explain to us what is going on here, so that we could further understand. So let me get this set up. So let's go ahead and start it again, Exodus 27, and see what we're reading through here. And thou shalt make an altar of shittim wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits broad. The altar shall be 4 square, and the height thereof shall be 3 cubits. So let me go ahead and show these pictures again. These are some pictures that I showed in the last chapter, in the last few chapters. So this was the actual from the last chapter. This was the tabernacle. If you remember what the tabernacle, that was the last chapter. This right here is the altar in the courtyard. You could see that this courtyard is going to be made, and he's going to talk about this altar right here. And then I think he's also going to go back and talk about oil for this lamp. So this is the lamp I think that they're actually talking about at the end of this chapter. So, but this is what we're looking for, what he's kind of making here. This is the tabernacle. So this is the ark. This is the altar of the burnt offering. This is the bronze ritual washing. So let's read through this again. So he's talking about, you're going to make an altar. So this is what he's talking about, the altar. And it's going to be 4 square, and the height thereof shall be 3 cubits. So it's talking about, again, the length of it. And the cubits, remember, for the most part, I understand the cubit to be about 1.5 feet, though, of course, that could vary, and that has varied through history. But, so going off of this, it says 5 cubits. So it's 5 cubits long, 5 cubits broad, and 3 cubits high. So that's about, once again, how do we get this? 5 cubits long is something like 7.5 feet long by 7.5 feet wide by about 4.5, 5 feet tall. So once again, these aren't very big. I mean, it's big enough, but they're not the largest things. And remember, this is because God is talking to them from heaven. Well, he's talking to Moses from heaven, but everybody is still close enough that they should be listening. They can hear this happening. God is still on this mountain, and it's very terrifying. Remember, it was very, very terrifying. And so so that's why he's making this a lot less intimidating. His whole everywhere he's gonna be with these people, it's far more less intimidating than when he's speaking to them from heaven. Because remember, he said it was gonna be a sanctuary. A couple of chapters back, he said when he started talking about this tabernacle, he was saying this is gonna be his sanctuary and that he would dwell among the people. And remember, he even said that he would commune with them from the mercy seat. And the mercy seat is also a very small spot. And if you remember where the mercy seat is, it's going to be way back here behind the veil. So when these priests walk in, they walk past the candlestick, they walk past the table, they're going to walk past this altar of incense. They're going to have to go behind this curtain into the most holy place. And here's this mercy seat, and God is going to commune to them from right there in this little it's not very intimidating. It's in a nice quiet spot. It's real, it's real intricate area. And so, but that's what God is saying. It's not going to be like the mountain, which is terrifying. He's going to go back here, and it's just going to be something more calm and relaxed, more mystical, maybe more godly is what I would get at, because that's what God is saying. That's more proper for him to be speaking to them, to the people. And so once again, it's not a very big altar. That's the whole point. It's not very intimidating. It's not very big. It's not much to it. And thou shalt make the horns of it upon the four corners thereof. His horns shall be of the same, and thou shalt overlay it with brass. So getting back into, this is that altar that it's talking about. You can see it's supposed to be something like 7 feet by 7 feet by I don't remember, 5 feet tall or something like that, 4 or 5 feet tall. So it's big enough. They're going to be putting burnt offerings in there. But instead of all the gold that this is overlaid with, that the tabernacle itself is overlaid with, it's actually overlaid with brass. So that's interesting. It's going to be brass. And it's going to also have horns on it. So you can kind of see the horns right here on this thing too, these four corners. It's going to be 4 square. It's going to be, these horns on the top. And, it's going to be all brass. And thou shalt make his pans to receive his ashes, and his shovels, and his basins, and his flesh hooks, and his fire pans. All the vessels thereof shalt thou make of brass. So he's talking about all the tools now, all the tools that go with that, the little shovels, the basins, the flesh hooks, everything that goes with this basin or this altar. Because remember, they're going to be putting sacrifices in there, and they're going to burn them. And then all the tools that go along with that. I mean, we use those still today, tools that you would use for fire pits. You could go out and buy these sets for, say, like your fireplace. And these are tools, these shovels and basins and flesh hooks and all the fire pans and everything. He wants them to make of brass. So it's not gold, this is brass. So keep in mind there's still a lot of, it's still some that smiths need to be, the smiths need to know how to make these things. So they need to know how to work with brass now. So not just gold and silver, they need to know how to work with the brass and everything. Even though they're, smelting, they're all different metals. You need to know how to work with them all individually. And then even on top of that, if you work with multiple metals, you kind of need to know how to refine stuff to separate out the materials. For example, with the gold, you need to know some chemicals, and you need to have some acids to separate gold from, say, silver and so forth, and all kinds of other metals to make the gold more pure. So these people were probably also working with these acids and chemicals while working with these metals. So there's a lot of things these people, like I said, it's all very, they would have known a lot of stuff. They would have been doing a lot of things, and they knew they weren't they weren't dumb, is what I really want to get at. They weren't, even though they're ancient people, they were very intelligent. God made them very intelligent. They were, their stuff does rival the things of today. Remember the Ark of the Covenant. Look at that. That's a golden plated box. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant what they did. And that's just, a long time ago, and they did it out in a desert. So keep that in mind. And thou shalt make for it a grate of network of brass, and upon the net shalt thou make 4 brazen rings in the 4 corners thereof. So it's talking more about these rings, and I'm not quite sure we could see them anywhere here, but you could see how the staves are right there in this picture, and you can see the staves right there. So these staves are this that's what it's talking about. You put the 4 rings in the 4 corners, and you shall put under the compass of the altar beneath, that the net may be even to the midst of the altar. So you're going to make a grate of network of brass. And upon the net shalt thou make 4 brazen rings in the 4 corners thereof. And thou shalt put it under the compass of the altar beneath, that the net may be even to the midst of the altar. And thou shalt make staves for the altar. And see, that's a complicated sentence or verse. I'm not sure what it's talking about. Put the compass. So I guess it's just saying you're going to make this kind of little, let's see, you're going to put the altar even to the midst of the altar. I'm not really sure what that meant. You know what? I'm going to go ahead, and in this circumstance, I'm going to go ahead and pull out a different version again, this New Living Translation, this NLT version. I'll pull this version out. I read it every now and then, and we'll see what this one actually has to say. It's verse 27, verse 4 and 5. And this one reads, and this is the New Living Translation. It says, make a bronze grating for it and attach 4 bronze rings at its 4 corners. Install the grating halfway down the side of the altar under the ledge. So I guess that is kind of what it's saying. Basically, it's trying to say, and this picture showed it. This one shows it. Basically make like some sort of, you use these, you're going to put these little hills or these little ledges here, and you're going to make this box go in between the 2 of them. That's what it means when it says the compass, on the altar, and thou shalt put it under the compass of the altar. So you're going to make for it a grate of network. So you're going to put a network. So you're putting something underneath it, and 4 brazen rings in the 4 corners. So it's talking about something like this, a grating right here around it. And then and it's saying that you're going to use these staves to put on these ledges, is what it's kind of trying to get at. But we need to go a little bit more, because you need to see, and thou shalt make staves for the altar, staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with brass. And the staff shall be put into the rings, and the staff shall be put upon the 2 sides of the altar to bear it. So they see what I'm getting at. It's trying to say that you make this kind of ledges right here, and you put the altar between them, and you make these rings and these grates underneath this thing, and they're going to sit, and you're going to make these poles, these staves, and you're going to put them in, and they're going to hold up the altar. So it's, like I said, I feel like these are complicated. It's a complicated chapter because it's just giving instructions how to build something. So this structure isn't simple, but it is, it's also it's not complicated entirely, but it's not the simplest thing, And let's see, we're still going to verse 8, which is the tabernacle altar. We're still talking about this altar here. And we moved into 7 and verse 8. Hollow with boards shalt thou make it, as it was showed thee in the mount, so shall they make it. So that's the end of that altar right there. This is the altar. So it has some sort of grating under it, and it's hollow with boards, and it's made out of brass. and it's got these staves to hold it up, kind of like the way you see it right here. So it gets held up, which is interesting. So that's the altar right there, and this is where they're going to be making sacrifices. That's the altar. This is the altar that God has had them make for his sanctuary. And then we're going to move on a little bit more, verses 9 through 17. We're going to talk about the court. So let's see, 9 through 17, we're going to talk about this court. And thou shalt make the court of the tabernacle for the south side southward. There shall be hangings for the court of fine twined linen of 100 cubits long for one side. So this is what it's talking about. This thing right here. You're going to have linen all around it. So remember, this is kind of like a tent structure. And everything has these staves because people are going to be picking them up to carry them. So God is going to make this sanctuary is a mobile sanctuary. It is where God dwells with the people, and he's going to come to them from the Holy of Holies, and he's going to commune with the priests, the high priests in particular. But this whole courtyard, he's talking about 100 cubits. Is that what it said? 100 cubits. This is something like what? 150 feet long, I guess. And his 20 pillars and their 20 sockets of brass, the hooks of the pillars and their fillets of silver. So he's saying basically this whole, it's gonna be 100. You're gonna have 20 pillars. Okay, so that's what you're doing. You're making 20 pillars on either side, and on the north and the south side, this side and this side. So these sides are both 150 feet long, and you're gonna have 20 pillars, I guess is what it's saying. Let's see, 20 pillars, and these pillars. Everything's and they're 20 sockets. They're gonna be of brass, and you're gonna have the hooks of the pillars, and their fillets shall be of silver. So basically, like the connectors, where they're gonna hang these curtains on, should be made of like silver, right? That's what it's trying to say. The hooks and their fillets shall be of silver. So basically the hooks, and then in the cloth, the little fillets, the little, the holes, they should be silver they're like little silver pieces. And likewise for the north side in length, there shall be hangings of 100 cubits, and his 20 pillars and their 20 sockets of brass, the hooks of the pillars of their fillets of silver. So, and their sockets, but. So yeah, so it's getting, it's saying that this is going to be made out of brass, these pillars, but where they get connected into the curtains are like a connectings of silver. And then of course these are really long. Remember how long are these curtains right here? Twined linen. There shall be hangings for the court of fine linen. So you're going to put some curtains there too. So remember that. And where are we? So this the north and the south are 100 cubits long. And then for the breadth of the court on the west side shall be hangings of 50 cubits, their pillars 10 and their sockets 10. And the breadth of the east of the court on the east side eastward shall be 50 cubits. So these pictures, again, I don't think these pictures are necessary. This picture seems a little bit more right. It's saying that the north and the south sides are the long 100 cubit long, and then the east and the west are the 50 cubit long. So this one's showing it at a weird angle. This one's also showing this kind of like to the south side. This one is kind of, I know this one made mention of the candles should be on the south side. So the candle like this one should be on the south side. So the south side is going to be one of the long sides. So you can see how this is how it is. This one is the long side, and this side, if you look at it, will be the short side. So, and of course, these aren't the greatest pictures to kind of show that, but Yeah, so the north and the south sides are the sides that are supposed to be the long sides, and the east and the west sides are the sides that are only 50 cubits long, and they only have 10 pillars instead of 20 pillars. And the breadth of the court shall be 50. So that's what it's saying. Going on to verse 14, the hangings of the one side of the gate shall be 15 cubits, their pillars 3 and their sockets 3. So this is a gate, and where's this gate supposed to be? The hangings of the one side of the gate shall be 15 cubits, and their sockets 3. And on the other side shall be hangings 15 cubits. So it's saying that where there's gates, they should be these 3 pillars, and the gate shall be 15 cubits. So that would be, I guess, right here is what it's talking about. But it's saying on 2 sides. And of course, this only shows the one side. But I think it's trying to say on both sides, the east and the west should both have sides. But and the breadth of the court and the hangings of the one side and their pillars 3 and the hangings 15. So that's what it seems like. And these maps only show one gate. Yeah, there's only one gate right here, but I'm actually thinking it's saying 2 gates, one on the west and the east side. But it doesn't necessarily make it too clear. And so, you know what? I'm going to read another version again, this New Living Translation, see if it has anything revealing in the verse 16. And it simply reads, that's chapter 28. I need to go to chapter 28, verse 16. For the entrance of the courtyard, make a curtain that is 30 feet long. Make it from finely woven linen and decorate it with beautiful embroidery in blue, purple, and scarlet. Am I in the right chapter 27, 16? This doesn't seem right. Let's see, for the entrance to the courtyard. Oh yeah, I guess it is. For the entrance is what it's calling it. For the entrance of the courtyard, make a curtain that is 30 feet long. Make it from finely woven linen and decorate it with beautiful embroidery in blue, purple, and scarlet thread. Support it with 4 posts, each securely in its own base. Hanging of 20, so that's 30 feet in purple and finely twined linen. So I guess I need to go to 14 and 15 is really my problem. I'm kind of looking ahead. So 14 and 15 talk about the courtyard entrance will be on the east side, flanked by 2 curtains. The curtain on the right side will be 22.5 feet long, supported by 3 posts set into 3 bases. The curtain on the left side will also be 22.5 feet long, supported by 3 posts set into 3 bases. The east end of the courtyard, the front. So yeah, this is trying to say in this version, the New Living Translation seems to kind of make it point out to like what this picture does, where it's all on one side, and it apparently it's saying it's on the east side. So these pictures still kind of have it wrong. It's at best this is showing it on the west side, maybe. This one will be showing it. Let's see, this is on the south, so north, east, southwest. So this one's showing it right, but it's got the picture backwards. It really should be flipped, or turned counterclockwise. I think counterclockwise, yeah. But it's saying, I'm not entirely sure, if it's really just on one side, but I guess it would make sense because there's only one entrance and there's the most holy spot. You wouldn't want a back door. So I guess it does kind of make sense. It's on the east side. But, I mean, quite reading, I'd have to read it a little bit more because the King James doesn't make it necessarily clear that this, in my opinion, that this fence is just on the east side. And if there isn't one on the west side as well, but that would be behind the most holy spot, and it would be like an entrance into a courtyard that was behind everything. It'd be like a backyard, so it'd be it doesn't necessarily seem right. So, but like I said, I can't really, like in the breadth of the court on the east side, eastward shall be 50 cubits, the hangings of the one side of the gate. So yeah, I guess it goes on from the east side, and it's saying the hangings of one side and the hangings of the other side. So it is saying, yeah, 13 is where it kind of makes it clear that, I guess this is the verse that puts it on the east side. Anyway, I'm getting kind of preoccupied with that. It just seems a little bit worded differently. But anyway, let's keep going on, because that was verse 16 is what I was really getting into. And for the gate of the court, so that's what's going to be hanging, is that nice linen right there. You can see it right there. That is the court. Verses 17 ends it. All the pillars round about the court shall be filleted with silver. Their hooks shall be of silver, and their sockets of brass. So these it's saying that the pillars round about the court shall be filleted with silver. Their hooks shall be of silver, and their sockets of brass. So again, where they connect the sockets, the pieces of wood, or where they connect, that's all brass. But where they connect to the curtain, that's what it's sounding like. All that should be silver. But either way, these are silver and brass pieces that they had to be making a whole bunch of these pieces. So moving on, verses 18 through 19, we're going to get the dimensions of the courtyard. So the length of the court shall be 100 cubits, and the breadth 50 everywhere, and the height 5 cubits of fine twined linen, and their sockets of brass. So remember, it isn't, the highest wall, but it's 100 cubits. And I guess this New Living Translation is actually putting everything in feet. So I'm not gonna, let's go ahead and I guess read the feet, because like I said, it is going based off of the 1.5 foot measurement. Verse 18 reads, so the entire courtyard will be 150 feet long and 75 feet wide, with curtain walls 7.5 feet high, made from finely woven linen. The bases for the posts will all be made of bronze. So bronze and brass, that's what it's saying. So it gives me the feet in that book, in that version. All the vessels of the tabernacle in the service thereof, and all the pins thereof, and all the pins of the court shall be of brass. So it's saying all the pieces, all the connectors, the pins, what we would know as like the screws and nuts and bolts, all that kind of stuff that they were using, whatever that, they were apparently using pins of some sort, but that all was going to be made of brass, all the vessels in the tabernacle and the service. So everything's, very interesting. It's all gold with brass. It's all metal. Those are the dimensions there. And so moving on, the last verses 20 to 21, the olive oil for the lamp. And so let's read with that, the olive oil. So verses 20 reads, and thou shalt command the children of Israel that they bring thee pure olive oil beaten for the light, to cause the lamp to burn always. So they're saying bring olive oil that you're going to use for, that's been beaten for the light, meaning that it's however you temper it. And I don't know how to work with olive oil entirely, but make sure you make this olive oil right for lighting a lamp. This is going to be used for lighting a lamp, to cause the lamp to burn always. In the tabernacle of the congregation without the veil, which is before the testimony, Aaron and his sons shall order it from evening to morning before the Lord. It shall be a statute forever until their generations, on the behalf of the children of Israel. So he's saying, so this is, another, once again, remember, like I said in the past few chapters, these people are now in debt to the Lord. As soon as, they accepted him as his king, as their king, they now look what they have to do. So not only do we have the table for the bread, and we'll come across the bread soon enough, but he's already ordering now that every day this lamp needs to be lit all the time. It should never go out. This lamp needs to be going. It's going to be And when it says the tabernacle of the congregation without the veil, it means that you're going to put this, where it is. This is without the veil, meaning it's in the tabernacle, but it's not inside this veil. It's on the outside of the veil. And it's saying, Aaron and his son shall order it. So that means this is an order. This is from the priest. This is another commandment, another order. It shall be a statute. So a statute is basically a law forever until their generations on the behalf of you need to have this lit. So this is another, like I said, that's a sacrifice. It's just the candles that are being lit 24/7 all the time. They need to be lit, these candles. These lights need to be on. Nothing to say about it. It's a law that these need to be lit. And so that means somebody needs to provide that oil always. And remember, this is, sacrifices. Remember a couple of chapters back, or maybe it wasn't, I want to say it was in 25. God said, if you're going to give me a sacrifice, make it a willing heart. Everybody that is willing. And it could have been it was chapter 25. He says, make a sacrifice for this tabernacle. Anyone who does it, do it with a willing heart. So somebody has to provide that oil, is what God is saying. Somebody's got to do it. And remember, everybody can hear God right now. They should all be hearing him. So they should all be preparing for this work. They're hearing it. And remember, it's over the course of 40 days and 40 nights that Moses is up here. So these people are listening, and they should be hearing, and they should know the plans, and they should be drawing up plans, and they should be organizing the gathering of material. They should be organizing the start of production, building the building all the things that they're gonna need, the ovens, the stoves, the saws, all the tools that they need just to work to building these poles and these beams and these pieces of gold. They're all all the tongues, all the hammers that they need, everything that they need. They should already be getting ready to get started with. They should all be hearing, and they should be listening. And that's why we're going to see the skilled laborers are getting ready to work, but then we're going to have some people that don't have any work to do apparently, and they're going to go out and get into some debauchery. And it'll be good for me. And the reason, where I'll explain later on about the New Living Translation, as well as other translations, that they do make, reading the Bible a little bit more clearer to understand, but I come across problems with them. And in a few chapters, I'll actually notice one in the I came across one with the New Living Translation. And it might be in the NIV too, but I'll explain it in a different chapter. That's just, I'm getting ahead of myself, but that is chapter 27 in its complete entirety. So I'll go ahead and end this video here. It's another, in my opinion, another one of the more complicated chapters of Exodus, whereas the laws, I feel, weren't entirely, I feel like the laws are pretty straightforward. Don't steal, don't kill, and don't be, and if you hurt somebody, you have to understand what it is to hurt somebody, and how it's a valuable lesson to learn about hurting somebody. But anyway, these instructions, however, are more complicated. They're more technical. They're more, like I said, they're for the skilled laborer. And skilled labor, even in today's world, is, what they say, the saying, good help is hard to find. And that's what's going on here, is that God is giving instruction, and it's complicated because this is some complicated work that needed to be done. And so it had to be done by professionals in their time, in their day, in that day. And it's still, in today's world, an incredible feat what they did out there in that desert, building that tabernacle for the Lord. But anyway, I'll go ahead and end this video now. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel for future chapter by chapter Bible studies. But until then, I'd like to just say God bless anybody who may be watching, and I pray that Uh, we all bless Jesus Christ, and may Jesus Christ bless all of us. Amen.